Hi everyone, welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson and we are on episode 16 already. So we made it to November. This is truly the best one yet and I'm super excited to introduce our special guest on the show today. So today we have James McGee. He's an Irish professional tennis player, turned pro in 2008. Retired in 2017 with a great career on the court, achieving a career high ranking of 146, and is still involved in the sport and helped grow in the game through high performance coaching, serving juniors, recreational players, and professionals. Also helping with mindset consulting via Skype and helps produce content for one of his USTA high performance coaches, Jeff, in his online instruction, The Tennis Evolution. He's also involved with the Inspiring Children Foundation as director of Team Brian. The Inspiring Children Foundation is a nonprofit that inspires many through mentoring, education, and tennis, and they equip youth with life skills and the ability to earn college scholarships. So without further ado, let's welcome James. Woohoo! So thanks James for joining us on today's episode.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate being on the episode. Thanks a lot for reaching out to me and look forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I think since obviously our theme of this overall podcast is the daily grind, so would you like to tell our listeners maybe a little bit about like your daily grind right now? It seems you have quite the involvement with tennis in multiple areas.
Yes, there's been a lot of changes since I came off the professional tour at the end of 2017. But now I'm actually living in Las Vegas. I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I'm living in Las Vegas for the last year or so. And I'm working now for a youth foundation called the Inspiring Children Foundation, where we have a number of different programs within our foundation. We have a tennis program. We have an emotional intelligence and mindfulness program. We have an entrepreneurship program. We have the academics. And then we have a thing called project-driven learning, where a lot of our kids within the foundation learn by doing real-world tasks. So it's an amazing foundation that I'm part of. It's definitely the opposite world to the professional tennis world that I lived in for 10 years. But at the same time, it's brought me a huge amount of fulfillment, continuing to learn a lot, and very happy to be in this line of work at this stage of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being part of the Inspiring Children Foundation director, did like stars kind of align, or coming off the court, did you know that you wanted to be in the role that you're in today?
Oh, honestly, I didn't know at the end of 2017 that was going to be my last, time on the professional tour. I actually retired in a match in the U.S. Open in 2017. I retired with a back injury, mm-hmm. And my initial plan after I retired from my match was to go back home to Ireland to rehab and then come back on the tour, a couple of months later. But it was an interesting period of time because I was dealing with a lot of stress in my life at the time, both on and off the tennis court. And I realized that when I got off the tour and I was rehabbing my back, I realized that my passion for the sport, or my heart, was changing. It wasn't necessarily waning or not liking the sport, but I felt a shift in my own passion in life and my own purpose in life, and I really started to kind of delve into that. And so throughout the course of 2018, I was in two minds. I was thinking, do I return back to professional tennis, or do I kind of move on with my life and look to pursue other things? And that could have been returning to education. That could be coaching tennis. That could be getting involved in nonprofit work or corporate work. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was very, very lost in my life. Certainly throughout 2018. And it was actually only in a yoga class that I did in kind of early 2018, where I hadn't been doing a tremendous amount of yoga in my life up until last year. And I started doing yoga, I started meditating, I started learning how to quiet my mind, listen to my body a little bit more. And once I started to do that, I started to get a sense of kind of what I wanted in my life. And I remember doing this fun yoga class, and I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I was doing a yoga class, and I don't know what I was doing, like child's pose or something. I was in some sort of a pose, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, like a moment of clarity where I said, I'm going to reach out to this foundation in Las Vegas that does this incredible work. Now, just a bit of a backstory. I've been following them online for a number of years. I knew one of the students that came through the program who coincidentally was a college roommate of mine back in North Carolina State University in 2006. But I decided to reach out to this foundation because I was so inspired by the work that they do. I was inspired by the fact that they were having an impact on other people's lives, that they were helping kids through very kind of traumatic situations, everything from depression and anxiety to suicide, attempted suicide attempts, to violence in the family, to abuse, to addiction, to kind of some of the biggest struggles that we have in our world. And I was inspired to learn about how they had helped these children and not only helped them through those situations, but actually helped them to thrive, to earn a college scholarship, and to be kind of happy, whole human beings. And so that's been a real passion of mine kind of my whole life. Outside of tennis, I've always been interested in, what makes someone great, but what makes someone happy and fulfilled, and kind of living the best life that they can possibly live. So, one thing led to the next, and here I am living in Las Vegas a year later, having, involved in this work. So it's really, really good.
Yeah, and you're helping those kids or young adults achieve their goals, and find a happy place in life and continue that growth throughout once they get older. That's awesome. Being in that yoga session that you came to a realization. I think it's important to be involved if you're passionate about tennis, but other things as well, to have that cross training or other aspect or other interests, and then sometimes those just lead to bigger and better things down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's amazing how life turns out. Like, none of us really know what's around the corner in our lives, but it's almost like as soon as you kind of let go and you trust that it's going to work out, things kind of tend to take shape and you tend to go where you're meant to go. And I feel that's what happened to me. I know for a number of months I was kind of struggling and I was wrestling with the idea of returning back to my professional athletic life or moving on. It was a really difficult decision, particularly because as an athlete, I mean, you literally put your whole life into it, from sort of 6 or 7 years of age. My whole life was about being a pro tennis player. And, I got up to a decent level of I played a number of Grand Slams. I qualified into the US Open. I was number one in Ireland. I played Davis Cup for my country for a number of years. And, I did decent. I wasn't a world-class superstar like the Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal. But I certainly gave my best effort, and I put my whole life into it. So it was really, really challenging kind of moving on from that life. But, lo and behold, I'm in a good place 2 years later, and, just happy to be a student of life, learning about life and seeing how I can help other people.
Yeah. We could probably talk so much on your whole tennis career and what you did on the court as a pro. Maybe just like some highlights are. I've tried to do some of my research in regards to like your favorite tournament is Australian Open. Is that correct?
I guess I suppose I don't know where you heard that, but I suppose it is. Yeah, I love the people in Melbourne, Australia. I remember playing the Australian Open qualifying about 4 times, and it was the very first time I got into. Actually, it wasn't the very first time I got into the Grand Slam, but it was my second Grand Slam that I had ever played. And I love the culture in Australia. I love how open the people are. I love how into sports they are. I love the fans. I love how interactive it is. But at the same time, I mean, the best tournament that I had as an athlete was probably the US Open in New York when I qualified in 2014. And it was a good run as an athlete. I did feel that I could have achieved more. I don't know if that's how every athlete feels, but you always feel like you never quite reach your potential. You could have had more or could have achieved more. No, the biggest thing is giving your best effort and trying to enjoy the journey, and I did that for the most part.
Good that you touched on the U.S. Open. Yeah, I was reading online too that's like one of your best tournaments. I've had a couple other people on my show in regards to on the flip side, so not as a player, but as a spectator or like a coach. Or can you give our listeners maybe a perspective of, like, from a player standpoint, like being at the U.S. Open, just kind of how the day goes and then what to expect?
Yeah, well, a Grand Slam is a whole lot different to other tournaments. I mean, firstly, there's a lot more people there. You have a lot more spectators. somewhere like where New York, where it's very, very hot and humid, you really have to prepare for that as an athlete. So you're making sure to get plenty of salt in, get the right nutrition in, obviously get good sleep in. And I think for me, going into a Grand Slam, after I qualified in, you're preparing for a 5-step match to play in the first round of the Slam, which, could go on for potentially 5 to 6 hours. That's what's happening now in some of these tennis matches. Mm-hmm. In fact, one year, I think it was Nadal against Djokovic, they played close to a 7-hour match. So it's leading up into these matches, there's a huge amount of mental preparation as there is physical preparation. For me, my mental preparation kind of, at the time, it's centered around visualization. It's centered around having confidence within myself. It's centered around being clear, being crystal clear on how I wanted to play and how I wanted to respond to adversity. Like, that was kind of my mindset going into these tournaments. And then physically, as I said, along with getting the nutrition right, you're just making sure you're super loose in your body and you're relaxed. I mean, the best athletes that I've come across and the best tennis players I've come across are usually the ones who are the most relaxed and kind of the most confident. So you're trying to always find that ideal performance state where you're kind of in your own little zone. And for me, that in order to get there, I would listen to music. I would make sure to have a chat with my coach. I would make sure to be clear on my tactics and my strategies and things like that. And then once you go out there and perform, it's just time to let go. It's time to trust in the work that you've done and to give it your best. And so there's definitely been times where I failed at that, where I went out and I didn't trust it, and I got tight and I got nervous and I got worried. And then there's other times where you completely let go, and they're the ones that are just amazing. They're the times that they create some amazing memories. So for me, I kind of had the best of both worlds as an athlete.
Mm-hmm. Would you say too, like from traveling to the U.S. Open and other tournaments, would you say travel definitely plays takes a toll on the body, or just mental or the mindset game?
Absolutely. Listen, as a tennis player, I remember I was traveling. I traveled about 10 years, and I traveled about 45 weeks a year. And I was in a different country every week. I was in a different city every week. And it does take its toll. Like, there's no denying that it takes its toll on you emotionally. It takes its toll on you physically. And you're literally up in the air, And when you're up in the air, you're not grounded. You're not always... For me, I wasn't always at peace, I remember, because it's such a costly sport, I couldn't always afford to bring a coach with me. So I was alone a lot. I was traveling in airports alone, and then you're getting to the hotel alone, and then you're playing your matches, and you're returning to the courts and all this alone. And for me, that was probably the more challenging aspect of it. Like, I don't mind traveling. I enjoy seeing new countries, new places, and learning about new cultures. That was kind of the fun part. But it's really about, can you enjoy it being on your own? Or for me, I prefer to be with someone that I really like. Because there's only so many weeks a year that you can do this all alone. And as we look at professional tennis and we take a view of how it looks now, like, you'll see that the top players in the world have a team of people around them. If you're looking at Federer, he actually has 2 tennis coaches. He's got the physical trainer, the physio, the manager, the wife, the kids, all that kind of stuff. And rightly so, because he's earned it and deserved to be in that position. But when you're outside the top 100 in the world and you're kind of working to get up there and to get to the highest level, it's almost impossible to do it alone. It is impossible to do it alone. And the money that you make outside of the top 100 doesn't allow you to pay for a team. So, what ends up happening now in professional tennis is, guys, you obviously need a huge amount of support and sponsorship. And if you don't have that, you kind of have to come from a wealthy family or a wealthy federation. That for me was challenging, but this is how the world works. Nothing is perfect. You have to try and figure it out. And I was getting up there. I remember the year that I got 140 in the world, and I actually tore the meniscus in my knee just as I was having the best kind of year of my life. So you're always, there's always going to be adversity, whatever you're doing. That's how it went for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely different challenges people face in their job, and that's how life is, and you have to kind of overcome those and gain confidence and just be on your toes all the time. I guess now, reflecting on today versus when you're traveling out, do you travel as much now in your current position? I would assume no.
Oh, I do. We do with the Inspiring Children Foundation. We have a number of different events. We're based out of Las Vegas, but we have a number of different events throughout the year in different parts of the country. We actually are running a health, wellness, and music festival around the States at the moment because we partner up with singer-songwriter Jewel. And she is kind of the main supporter of our emotional intelligence and mindfulness program. And so we have this event in Denver every year. I think it's in August next year. We also have an event in Cincinnati, and it's called the Wellness Your Way Festival, and we're the official charity for the event. So we go in there and we help organize the event, and the idea behind it is to basically bring health to the masses. Obviously, nutritional health, physical health, fitness. They've got cooking demos. I guess from our perspective and from my perspective, the most compelling part of this festival is actually the mental health aspect and the emotional health aspect, because that's becoming a serious issue in the world at the moment. We know that depression and anxiety rates are at an all-time high at the moment, as are suicide rates in the world, particularly in America. And this needs to be addressed. These issues need to be addressed. In our foundation, we actually have had a lot of cases of attempted suicide and depression and anxiety, these types of traumatic situations. A lot of our work, what we do, along with group discussions and having support for our kids, is we have a daily practice of what we call sitting quiet, or you could say meditation, but it's simple breathing exercises of actually learning how to calm your mind down. And we found that a lot of kids who are kind of struggling tend to be lost in thought. They tend to be in their mind all day, and they tend to be ruminating over maybe the challenges in their life, or ruminating over whatever's going on in their life. And just by a simple practice of actually sitting down, breathing, and actually observing your thoughts, it kind of takes the weight of the world off your shoulders, because you realize that you're not your own thoughts. You realize that you're the observer of your thoughts, and you can kind of take a step back from them. So I know I've gone off on a tangent here. The original question was, do you travel a lot?
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I just thought it would be interesting to share that, because it's really fascinating.
Definitely, yeah, that's definitely eye-opening, and it's great that you share it with our audience. Or, I mean, like on the travel side, you're not traveling solo, you're with a team of people at Inspiring Children Foundation, I guess, to have these awesome events that go on throughout the year.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just traveling to Denver and Cincinnati. I also, from the tennis standpoint, we travel to different tournaments. So, I kind of have a number of different roles here. It's hard to kind of say this is exactly what I'm doing, because I'm coaching tennis. That's one part of my job, and then the other part of my job is working in this foundation, where I'm involved in mentoring, I'm involved in preparing for events. It's kind of a full-time gig. And there's so many different parts of our foundation. Yeah, no, we do travel a lot, and it's cool. I enjoy being out on the road.
Definitely, yeah, and you have experience too being out on the road with all the tournaments that you've been and played all different cities. Do you have any, I guess, from the coaching side, do you have any recent stories or examples of how you shared your experience, like professionally, or like inspired others that you coach via like a junior or a recreational player or even the adult player? Do you have any recent like success stories?
I'm coaching a number of different kids at the moment, and I wouldn't say I have a recent success story. I mean, I think success is a daily thing. It's like the name of your podcast. It's the daily grind, right?
That's true. Yeah.
It's trying to have success, and it's trying to have improvement one day at a time. It's not this end product. That so many people think it is. It's like, I got to get to this end goal. I got to have the big shiny car at the end of the. The big shiny whatever at the end of the day. It's not about that. It's about getting a better one day at a time. And my philosophy, and certainly the philosophy here at the foundation that I work for, is do the right thing. Are you doing the right thing every day? And if you're following the right thing in your life every single day, things will work out exactly how they're meant to work out. If you're making sure to get to bed on time, that's the right thing. If you're making sure to eat the right food, that's the right thing. If you're meant to train the right way, if you're meant to have the right attitude and take the right course of action in everything that you do, well, that's the best path that you can possibly be on. And for me, the athletes that I coach, which I try and kind of help them with that, and it's not always easy. It's not always. It might be very simple and clear, but it's not always easy to do. And my experience working with kids and my experience with with being involved in the tennis world is the one thing that holds us back is our own mind, is our own thoughts and is our own insecurities and doubts. And it's kind of navigating our ways through that and actually seeing the truth in them and realizing that, we don't have to listen to this voice in our head all day. All you have to do is focus on the right thing one day at a time and work hard, make good decisions, be around good people. And, life will take you where it's meant to take you, and, the kids that I work for, like, there's some, amazing kids. We've won, national championships here. We've won sectional tournaments. We've won all sorts of events here. So there's been plenty of success from that perspective in terms of, like, the wins and the trophies. But the real success is did you win from yourself? Like, that was my big thing as an athlete, is like, at the end of the day, did I win? Did I win from within? Did I go out there and perform to the best of my ability? Did I have the best attitude I could possibly have? Did I play fearlessly? Did I go for my shot? Did I basically do the right thing in every moment? And that's a real, as an athlete, that feels better, because I know that there's times when I would leave the tennis court, even after a win, and I wouldn't feel very good about it, because I know I didn't have a great attitude. I knew I kind of got a little bit lucky, and I kind of played fearful, and I just about scraped it. It's not about the win. It's not always about the win. It's about what creates the win. It's about doing the right thing to in the first place, And that's what I'm a big believer in. I'm a big believer in the process over the result. And if you focus on the process, and you focus on the daily grind, as you quite rightly know, things will take care of themselves.
Yeah, like the success through achieving like their life skills and the ability to earn or strive towards what they're trying to reach. So yeah, you have definitely daily goals, weekly goals, yearly goals, however you want to define it, if it's short term or long term, tennis or non-tennis as well. There's a lot of things or life skills that are applicable that you've learned from coaches like yourself that the average recreational player can utilize and improve upon their strengths and motivate themselves to continue towards their goals down the road. I'm a tennis player. I also run too, so I have other running goals, but I have other professional goals as well. So it's just different strengths that you take away from things that you do in practice. Like the daily grind just helps internally motivate you to pursue what you want to get out of life and down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff. I guess too, talking a little bit on tennis, you work with the team Bryan, so the Bryan brothers. I know latest news on them. They just announced their retirement at next year's U.S. Open. Do you have any?
Correct,
yeah. Do you have any perspective on that?
Well, listen, these guys are the best doubles team of all time. The greatest doubles team of all time, and they've pretty much won everything you can possibly win in tennis. And for them to be bowing out in 2020, all good things come to an end eventually. Initially, it was kind of sadness and like I don't want to see these guys go, because they're so good for the sport. I mean, they've done great things for the sport. They're twins. They're good looking. They went to Stanford. They're amazing tennis players. But the biggest thing about them is they've got a tremendous character, and they're just amazing human beings. I've got a chance to to know their dad, Wayne Bryan, who's come to our foundation and also to the academy I work with, the Noble Tennis Academy. He's delivered talks on how he parented Bob and Mike Bryan growing up and what the approach was. I don't know, these guys are just amazing people. They're going to be successful whatever they do in life. They've had a huge impact on our kids at the foundation. They've mentored our kids. They've supported our program. They've given countless talks again and again. And they're kind of just great people. And that's what that's what the world needs. We need heroes, and we need people who are going to do good in this world and who are going to inspire other people. And they're just an awesome example of that. And I'm sad to see them go, but I think both of them have young families or are starting young families, and it's probably the right thing to do. Because I think it's very hard to manage family life and professional tennis life when you're on the road 40 weeks a year.
Lots of stuff that they're on their daily grinds as well. It feels like all of us are doing that, just in a different. Everyone has their each and own story. To I guess talking on what's currently on the tennis news, ATP finals that are going on right now. Do you have any perspective on that, or even for like next year and the coming years, like next gen players?
Yeah, it's been interesting watching this whole, the next gen players. At the end of the day, you still see Rafa number one now. He's ending the year number one in the world. Then you've got Djokovic and Federer. They're still 1, 2, 3, and these guys are so good. They've been, they've hardly left. Maybe someone could correct me if they even have left the top three. Actually, Federer dropped down for a little bit for a while, but the fact that those guys are still dominating the sport is incredible. I just saw news that Federer beat Djokovic and he's into the semis of the ATP World Tour Finals in London at the moment. Mm-hmm. I know Dominic Thiem had a great win over Djokovic too. He's definitely someone to watch out for, Dominic Thiem. I mean, he already made the final of the French Open this year. Rafa was too good. I still see Thiem being around. He's one of the more consistent players week in, week out. You have someone like Stefanos Tsitsipas from Greece. Mm-hmm. You have Daniil Medvedev, who made the final of the US this year and lost to Rafa in 5 sets. And then you've got some younger guys, some up-and-comers like Francis Tiafoe and Di Maner and this young guy, Yannick Sinner from Italy. So I don't see one player that I'm going to say, this guy is going to be number one in the world. I think it's going to be a very, very strong top 10 in the world in the next few years because all these guys are really kind of gunning for a position. You also have Felix Auger-Aliassime, you have Denis Shapovalov from Canada. I think whoever is going to win the next slam from these next gen guys, it's whoever believes it, whoever knows deep within them that they're going to do it, and whoever has a great team around them. And for me, the two people that are standing out to me are kind of Tsitsipas and Shapovalov. I feel those two guys have an opportunity to kind of really do big things in the sport. So I could be wrong. I've been historically always wrong with my tennis predictions, so please don't fault me on that. Mm-hmm. But I think tennis has got some good players coming up, but I don't know if they're going to have the same impact on the sport as someone like Federer or Nadal. Mm-hmm. Federer and Nadal have really transcended and transformed the sport. Only time will tell. Only time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would say too. I'm all over the board on predictions. Like you mentioned, the time though, with the top three being in their 30s playing. Do you think these next gen players will last as long down the road? Like, will they have a long career like these top three have?
I don't see why not. I don't see why they wouldn't. I guess the biggest challenge in them not having a longer career is the physicality of the sport, rather than big injuries or career-ending injuries, which no one wants to really talk about. But the game is getting very physical. Like, you can see how athletic these guys are and how they move around the court. And if you look at someone like Federer, who what is he, 38 at the moment, mm-hmm. and he's still moving incredibly. His game is so efficient. Technique is excellent. He just moves he's so graceful. He's like a dancer out there. I think that's going to be a really important part if you need longevity in the court on the court, is the ability to move well and to move efficiently. If you're one of these guys that moves in a very, how would you describe it, like kind of aggressive manner and not mm-hmm. moves like light on your feet.
More of a attacker, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like over time that could really cause damage on your body. Now, I think years ago people were talking about Nadal and they were actually saying, like, there's no way this guy's going to last beyond 30. He's got knee issues. He kills his body. And he's an example of a guy who kept going, made adjustments, and he's still playing, going strong at 33 years of age. I mean, absolutely no one would have predicted that 10 years ago. No one would have predicted that he's going to win 12 French Opens. Possibly he's going to win 13 next year. There's no reason why he couldn't. I think it's going to come down to the team. It's going to come down to all the minor details. Tennis is like Formula One now. It's like when you watch Formula One, you see like 25 people around a car when they go to the pit stop. It feels like that with tennis now. It's like you got a lot of people around one player in order to make them their best. You got the nutritionists and the psychologists and the physios and the tennis coaches and the statisticians and the girlfriends and the mm-hmm. physical trainers. I mean, the list goes on. They're trying to tick every single box in order to get the performance right. It's going to come down to that.
Yeah, bigger support team and just other people just closely knit around them. I guess following up on that, that's actually a perfect transition. Do you think it's harder from today's play, like from now, so 2019 versus in the past, like when you turn pro? Do you think it's harder to turn pro or get to that level with it now to even perform at the highest level, to have a big support team, all these people helping you out or assisting you on court? Do you think it's harder now versus in the past to go pro?
Oh, it's a good question. It's a good question because I don't fully know the answer. Because when I first went pro, I got my first world ranking professional points, I think in 2006 or 2007. I think it was 2007. And then I kind of turned pro in the summer of 2008. I remember playing these low-level futures events in Venezuela. I returned to Italy, and then I went to Greece, and I played all these events. And I'm aware that the ITF, the International Tennis Association, or Tennis Federation, they made rule changes last year which made it very, very difficult for people to turn pro that didn't have world ranking point or world ranking. And since then, they've actually gone back and they've changed the system. So I really don't know what it's like if you're a young kind of 18 to 20-year-old now who wants to go out and turn pro. I believe the standard of tennis has gotten interesting. Just a few weeks ago, we had a challenger event in Las Vegas, and it was won by Patrick Postol, who's a Wimbledon champion in doubles, and the finalist was James Duckworth, who's an Aussie, a good friend of mine. And I went down, and I used to play against all these guys in the tour, and we used to practice together, we used to travel together, we had that kind of camaraderie together. And I had another friend of mine, Taro Daniel, who's he beat Novak Djokovic last year in Indian Wells. He's a top Japanese player. He's been top 100 in the world for years. He's fighting to get it back into the top 100 now. He's an amazing guy. And we had this conversation when at the Las Vegas Challenger, and he's like, dude, he's like, these guys who are 300 in the world, they're getting tougher. He says the standard in the tour is getting tougher. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, they're like 300-400 in the world. He's like, it's no longer like a relatively, I don't want to say easy match, but it's like you really have to work your tail off in order to get a win against these guys. Like the standard is getting higher. It's like, and I said, why do you think that is? Like, why is everyone getting better? He's like, well, I actually think the technology is making a difference because there's no secrets out there anymore. I mean, everyone's just going on Instagram or YouTube and they're seeing how the best players in the world are training. They're seeing how Nadal and Federer and all these guys are training. They're learning about nutrition. They're learning about mindset. All the information is out there to be the greatest tennis player, the greatest you possible. It's just a matter of putting it together like a jigsaw puzzle. And I thought that was a really interesting observation from him because I certainly haven't noticed it because I've been away from the sport for all this time. So I guess that's to circle back to your original question, is it harder to go pro? I mean, it would, judging by his response to me, it sounds like it is getting tougher, because the depth in men's tennis, and I'm sure in women's tennis as well, the depth is getting more and more deep, is getting stronger players, and it becomes a test of survival of not only of the fittest, but also the smartest and who's the savviest with having a good team around. You kind of have to be business savvy. You have to be smart about who you employ. You have to be smart about your schedule. You have to be smart about, what type of tennis player you want to be and all that kind of stuff. It's funny. I remember when I was in it, I was just so into the details and the strings in my racket and the grip of my racket and all this type of stuff, and always looking for an extra inch. I think that's going to just become more and more important.
Yep, just all the balances and channeling all those resources out there. Definitely better equipment or tennis rackets. Technology keeps on changing, faster play, lots of different factors. And then, like you mentioned before, you can do the research on nutrition or just the physical or mental aspect of it. Lots of different factors go into play. Going back from switching from tennis now to what still involved in tennis, but your current role, I guess from transitioning from that part of your career, did you have to do what you do on your daily grind right now? Did you have to, how you learned your role or I mean, you probably have it naturally, the knowledge to inspire, mentor, education, tennis. But did you have any other people reach out to you, or did you research or have resources to, I guess, transition the current role that you're at? I guess, do you have any advice to give to others that are switching jobs or switching from graduating from college, playing a sport, and now they're doing a more full-time job?
Right. Well, for me, and I think it's the same for anyone who's either switching jobs or ending an athletic career and moving into something else, it's a really, really challenging time because for me, I remember my whole identity was wrapped up in being a tennis player. I mean, that's who I thought I was. Like, if I wasn't a tennis player, I was nothing in my own mind. I had nothing else to offer, which is very false and it's not true. But when you're in the thick of it and when you're in the thick of competing week in, week out, it kind of becomes your life. And so when I got to the stage where I realized it was time for me to move on, I struggled. I tried different things. I was coaching in Atlanta. I coached tennis in Ireland. I thought about taking a yoga teacher training class. As you had mentioned at the very start of the podcast, I was involved with mindset consulting for Jeff Soldenstein, who's a very good friend of mine. I don't do that now because I'm so busy with my current job. But my advice, what came to me was the reason I got in this job is I reached out to a man who I admired. I reached out to someone who I admired, and I asked myself the question. I said, who do I want to be? I didn't ask myself the question, what do I want to do, or how much money do I want to make? I asked myself, who do I want to be? When I look back on my life in 10, 15, 20 years, like, who will I be proud of? Like, what type of person do I want to become? Do I want to become someone who's got all the money in the world, but I've got a lot of anger in my heart, and I've got a lot of hate, and I haven't healed the relationships in my life, and I'm sick, and I'm unhealthy, which is the case for a lot of people? Or do I want to be someone that doesn't basically put money as the forefront of in my mind, and I focus more on on being the best me possible, and kind of trying to develop myself, look at the areas of my life that I really kind of failed at, and I made bad decisions on in my 20s, and I kind of I look at it and I try and transform myself. And for me, that was what I decided to do. Even though I don't make a huge amount of money, but I certainly feel a whole lot better when I'm on this current time. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out to a man who had helped a lot of people, and his name is Ryan Wolfington, and he's devoted his life to helping people. He's devoted his life to helping people in very, 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 very difficult situations. And for me, that's a hero. That's a hero, someone that's really trying to do good for other people, as well as himself. And that's my experience. I think it's a powerful question to ask yourself. Who do you want to be? Mm-hmm. And when you decide who you want to be, and you get a real feel for it, and you get inspired by it, well, I feel you'll be led to go somewhere. You'll know what to do. Because there's no point thinking about it too much, because life will go on. You will be led to go somewhere, and some people don't like hearing it. But that's been my experience, and it's definitely worked out for me.
Mm-hmm. Great response, James. Super inspirational. Lots of key takeaways from just how you transitioned. As we come to a close, we talked about your daily schedule now. So what's on your daily grind in the upcoming weeks, or later this year, or early next year?
Yeah, well, just to give you a sense of how my week kind of works, I'm on the tennis court for about 4 or 5 hours in the day, every morning from 8 to 12 or 8 to 1. Mm-hmm. And then in the afternoon, I'm kind of in the Inspiring Film Foundation in the office, and we're working on all sorts of things at the moment. We've got different projects and events coming up. And we actually do an event in a place called Necker Island with Sir Richard Branson. I don't know if you've heard of the event, but there's a very famous tennis event every November or December called the Necker Cup, where Richard Branson invites a number of the top athletes, singers, songwriters, artists, musicians, actors, all that kind of thing, to his private island in the British Virgin Islands. And we've been fortunate enough to be the official charity for the event for the last 5 or 6 years. So my role, I'd actually, last year in 2018, I had won a tournament which allowed me to compete in the Necker Cup. It's not even compete, not the right word. Just to play in the Necker Cup. But this year I'll be going in a different capacity. I'll be going kind of working behind the scenes, helping prepare for the event. And it's amazing, like to have the opportunity to go to a beautiful island, cool people, is obviously amazing, and I certainly don't take it for granted. So that's what I'm doing in the upcoming weeks. We'll be going in very early December. And when I return back, I'll be heading home to my home country of Ireland for Christmas, where I get to see my family. And then after that, I'll be returning stateside and getting back into the daily grind.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, that's an amazing event. Yeah, I heard of it before. That's awesome. Able to be the official charity partner and you're involved in it. Do you have for our listeners a word of the day to motivate them out there on their daily grind?
Interesting that you've asked that question, because when you first asked it at the very start when we were talking before we got online, was I'm a big believer in intuition. I'm a big believer in following your intuition. And when you had said it, you mentioned it, the first word that came to me was listen. It wasn't like work hard, or it wasn't like grind or whatever. For me, it was just listen. And when you learn to quiet your mind, learn to listen to your own intuition, some amazing things can happen in your life. And I've certainly experienced that in my own life. I've had plenty of conversations with other people who have learned that. And I don't know, if you can really slow things down and not only listen to other people, but listen to your own self and listen to what's truly in your heart, I think you'll be led to go where you're meant to go. The answers, from my experience, are already within us, and they're already in our own hearts. And I think if we quiet the brain down, the mind down, the answers will present themselves.
Very, very well said. Focused and listen. If listeners, our audience, our listeners, if they have questions or comments, if they want to get in touch with you, James, after this podcast, how can they do so?
I'm still on the Instagram. I deleted it for a year last year and then came back for 10 months, I should say, 2018. But Instagram's probably the best thing. My handle on Instagram is @JamesMcGee01. That's JamesMcGee01. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook with those same handles. And I appreciate you, Kelly. I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you having the courage to set up a podcast like this, looking to motivate people, looking to inspire people, looking to share cool stories. Because that's what people need. A lot of people are struggling in the world at the moment, and I'm all for positivity. I'm all for kind of helping people in whatever way we can. And I think, doing this, what you're doing, setting up a podcast, and you never know how these conversations and talks can help transform someone's life. I appreciate what you're doing. I just wish you all the best with it. I hope it goes well.
Thank you so much, James. I really appreciate your kind words. I will put James' social handles on our show notes for today, so you can get in touch with him after this episode. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in today. When it comes to sharing our story with you and ways to follow the Daily Grind, our website is www.kjfwi.org/thedailigrind, all hyphenated. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Check out all the episodes and leave a review. Questions and comments, you can hit me up on Twitter at KellyJLefty, and you can Instagram DM me at the same handle as well. So until next time, thanks again for tuning in the Daily Grind. Have a great day.